Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Books Beside My Bed video. For those of you who are new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, and for those who are very familiar with the series, welcome back. This is my reading week from the 21st until the 27th of June. It was my Read Digital week, which I host every month, and I read 7 books off my Kindle, and I also started one webcomic, which equated to 2,650 pages and 16 webcomic episodes. I don't know how to actually count those page counts, so we'll just go with episodes, and my yearly reading total is up to 222 books. I did miss one square in this week, which was the Author from Your Country square, which I was planning on reading Lost Souls Atlas by Zana Fralin, which is a review copy that I have, and I will be reading that hopefully in the next week. So it's coming. I just didn't quite get there this week. So diving straight into the books, the first book that I read was Gladiator by Anna Hackett. This is book 1 in the Galactic Gladiators series. It was a 2016 release from Kindle. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I read it for the challenge to read a space book. It's a science fiction romance story. It is about an Earth space marine, Harper, who is kidnapped from her vessel and then dropped right in the middle of a gladiator arena on an alien planet very far away from Earth. There she crosses paths with Raiden, who is a former prince who has sort of become the champion of this gladiator arena. But the reality is that Raiden had earned his freedom a long time ago, and he has stayed because he is trying to find ways to avenge his people and the people who are kidnapped by the alien race, the Thraxians, by staying in the arena and ferrying away the kidnapped victims as often as possible. He ends up joining forces with Harper, especially when she finds out that some of her colleagues are also in the arena but in a separate area to her, and they work together in order to free them. So this is, it's a science fiction romance. It has lots of fighting, so it's pretty gory. It was a really fun, easy read. It wasn't very long either. I think this one was relatively short. I also read 16 episodes of Olympus by Rachel Smythe. This is a webtoons webcomic and it is just glorious. I won't give it a rating because I'm not finished with it, but it's definitely up there. The art style is incredible. It is a Hades and Persephone retelling and features all of your familiar gods and goddesses, and it is just really fun. There are episodes that do have trigger and content warnings, so make sure you read those before you begin it. I will leave a link to it down below, but it is fabulous and I can't wait to go back and read some more. I also read A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is book 1 in her Hades and Persephone series. It was published in 2019 on Kindle and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. I read this for my challenge to read a book with plants on the cover, and it does have a floral design on the cover. This Hades and Persephone retelling is more urban fantasy. It is set in our world, and Persephone, who is the goddess of spring, is trying to pass herself off as a mortal journalist while she's studying. And the world knows that gods and goddesses exist. Some of them, particularly the more famous ones, have opened up businesses and things like that. Hades has a club. And one night, despite knowing better, Persephone ends up following one of her friends to Hades' club, and there she has a chance encounter with him and unintentionally enters into a contract with him. In order to fulfill her contract, Hades charges Persephone with creating life in the underworld, which is a bit of a problem because despite being the goddess of spring, Persephone's powers have never been able to create life. It's only been able to destroy it, and she's determined to get herself out of this contract because if she doesn't fulfill it, she loses her freedom forever. This story, it was really well paced. It was very sexy, and Hades and Persephone as characters were really, really engaging, and I loved it so much. So I will be continuing this series at some point soon. And continuing my Hades and Persephone retelling spree, I also read A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah McLean, which is the first book in the Rules of Scoundrels series. It was published in 2012. I got it from Kindle and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read this for the Read Digital challenge to read an author's backlist title. I did initially have a different book in here for this challenge, but I ended up switching it out because I was really enjoying my Hades and Persephone retellings, so go figure. The premise of this story is that 10 years ago, the Marquess of Bourne was cast out from society after gambling away his inheritance. Since then, he has rebuilt himself and is a partner in one of the most exclusive gaming hells in London. Then he finds out that the land that he initially lost is now up for grabs if he marries Lady Penelope Marbury, who is a childhood friend that he left behind when he was cast out from society. Penelope herself is in her late 20s, I believe, and she has had a broken engagement and she has a history of disappointing courtships. But now that an extra land title has been added to her dowry, suddenly people begin coming out of the woodwork. She is frustrated by this. Her mother wants her to marry well for the sake of her younger sisters. However, Penelope really wants something more. She finds herself caught up in Bourne's schemes, and as much as he tries to keep her out of his world, she is someone who is very determined to become immersed in it as much as possible. It was just a really fun story. Sarah McLean writes really great banter between characters. I thought it was just a really fun take on the Hades and Persephone myth for a historical romance, so I did really enjoy it. I also read The Hookup by Kristen Callahan. This is book 1 in a series, and I forgot to write down what the series title is, so I'll leave it on the screen. It was published in 2014 by Plain Jane Books. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I read it for the challenge to read a book that is the start of a series, and to be honest, this one sort of was just lacking. It was okay, it was fine. It's a sports romance story. Follow Anna, who is just trying to get through college, and Drew, who is a college football star, and their paths cross unintentionally in a class, and they end up sitting next to each other for the entire semester. They're immediately attracted to one another, but Anna has decided she doesn't do hookups, and she certainly doesn't go out with college sports stars until they do hook up, and then that's all Anna wants to keep it. She doesn't want a romance, she doesn't want a relationship. If they're going to keep seeing each other, it is purely a friends with benefits arrangement. However, Drew wants something more than that, and this is really a push-pull relationship story. It was just okay. I felt like it dragged a lot. I think the pacing could have been a little bit quicker. So as much as I love Kristen Callahan, this one was not a favourite of mine. Then I read Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is a 2020 release from Sourcebooks Casablanca, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I really love this book. I read this for my Read Digital Challenge to read a book published in 2020. It is the story of Luke, who is the son of 2 famous rock stars, or aging rock stars, and as such, his life has never really been far from the tabloids. His father has had many stints in rehab, and as such, anytime that happens, Luke and his family find themselves usually somewhere near the front pages of the tabloids. However, his father is making a comeback, and after a innocent but unfortunately compromising photo is taken of Luke, he needs to clean up his image, or else he risks sort of losing everything that he's built up in his life. In order to clean up his image, he needs to find a nice, respectable boyfriend, and Oliver Blackwood fits that description. He is a barrister, he is an ethical vegetarian, and he's never had a moment of scandal in his life. They have nothing in common except that they both need dates to specific events in order to get some people off their back, and so they enter into a fake dating arrangement, and throughout this process they get to know each other a little bit better. Despite initially not liking one another particularly well, they do find out that they've got more in common than just the need for a fake relationship at this time, and their feelings become real, and then they both have to struggle with what that means and how that impacts on everyone around them. This story was fantastic. It has an excellent side cast. You have Luke's terrible father, he's appalling, but his mother is an absolute firecracker of a character, and I loved every scene that we had with her. His friends are also really good because they don't take any of his crap. Oliver's family is really difficult to deal with and is part of the reason why these 2 men end up becoming closer eventually, and the whole thing was just fantastic. And to be honest, I said when I shared this on Instagram that I actually think I liked this better than Red, White and Royal Blue, and I think I do, because these are older characters, they're going through real life, they are working real jobs, and they have real world struggles, and they are so relatable as a result. So I really enjoyed this one. I also read Restless Slumber by KJ Sutton. This is the second book in the Fortune of Sworn series. It was sent to me for review by the author. It is a 2020 release, and I read it for the Read Digital Challenge to read a book with non-human characters. I can't really talk about the plot of this one because it is heavily reliant on you knowing what happened in the first book. However, what I can say is that Fortune of Sworn's life has changed dramatically. She now has to deal with her new position within the fairy court, a broken brother, a werewolf who has attached itself to her, a surly bodyguard, and 2 kings of fairy who enjoy sniping at one another. While trying to help her brother heal and trying to return the werewolf to its pack, she ends up meeting a range of other magical beings that exist in the world, and this causes some problems. She is also having to deal with an evolution of her abilities, as well as an inner ruthlessness that she didn't really know that she possessed. The idea that she is capable of things that she never thought that she would be able to do. The whole thing is very dark, very gritty. A lot happens in this story. It almost feels like a series of shorter stories within one book, but it never felt slow. Like everything flowed really well. That said, there are a lot of trigger warnings in this book and this series in general, including toxic relationships, slavery, death of loved ones, violence, and also consensual and non-consensual sex. So beware of that going into it. I did really enjoy it, and I look forward to reading the next book in the series. And then finally, I read Take the Lead by Alexis Daria. This is the first book in the Dance Off series. It was published in 2017 by Swerve. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read it for the Read Digital Challenge to read an author's debut book. And this is basically a Dancing with the Stars romance. So if you're a fan of reality TV, you'd probably like this book. Gina Morales is a professional dancer on the reality TV show Dance Off. And Gina has never made it to the finals of the show. However, this year she's determined to do it. Then, when she's flown out to the middle of nowhere, Alaska, she realizes that she has been paired with Living Wild reality TV show star Stone Nielsen, who is a mountain of a man. She's being set up by the show's producers as the season showmance. Gina has fought her entire career to avoid being typecast as that kind of Latina, and so she's really frustrated with this. However, she has an instant chemistry with Stone. They work really hard. They actually do score really well in the show, and things get complicated when they begin to have real feelings for one another. So this was really fun. It was entertaining. It was a very quick read. I enjoyed it a lot. I have not watched any dancing reality TV shows in years. This gave me all of the same feelings that you get when you watch the show, and it was really fun watching these characters have to resolve their hang-ups. So that was my reading a week. I'm very happy with all the books that I got through. As I said, I will try and get to the Lost Souls Atlas very soon. Also just got an arc of Katie Roberts' new book that's coming out at the end of the next month, so I'm planning on reading that today. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning on reading them in the future. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.